Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to Hold the Ball. Hope you guys are well. Your home of Pure Rugby League. I've got a special guest there, somebody that HDB actually knows very well. In saying that though, we have Keith here from Everything Rugby League, and as you can see on the bottom screen, I've got there the places to follow Everything Rugby League. But in saying that, Keith, introduce yourself, brother. What's been happening? How are you going? And who are you?
Brother, I am still on cloud nine from that game on Sunday. I struggled to sleep on Sunday night. That's how pumped I was. And the only comparison that I could think of to when I've been that pacing up and around my apartment was ironically Sean Johnson rescuing us at that ground against Cronulla Sharks in that famous try that he scored, or two tries in sort of 5 minutes towards the end of when Andrew Voss screamed out, that's an 11 out of 10 on the incredible meter or something like that. That's the only other time that I can remember myself being so pumped up in this modern day Warrior era. I mean, sure, of course, when we beat Melbourne in 2008 and also 2011 to get us to the final. But mate, I'm on cloud nine.
Awesome, as and Keith, do you mind just telling us a bit about Everything Rugby League, please? Can you explain to me what it's about, what it looks to serve, and all that stuff as well? Thank you.
Sure. ERL's been around for around about 10 years now. I originally created it with my brother when we lived together back in the day. These days, I don't have too much to do with the enterprise or the background enterprise in itself. I'm more a content creator in terms of writing articles and content for the website, but the day-to-day sort of the runnings of the website primarily. And also, it's got a very large following on Facebook. I think we're at above, I think we're heading towards around 1,000 followers. So thank you to anyone that does follow Everything Rugby League. Your support over the past decade means more than you know. But my role with Everything Rugby League these days is primarily as a sort of, I guess you'd call me an amateur journalist, primarily specializing in the international side of the game, which is hopefully growing. Hopefully we see more of that towards the back end of the year. But if they can get this CBA sorted, hopefully we can get England involved in that as well, in France. But that's me, and that's my role with ERL, primarily as a journalist these days.
Awesome, as and before we shift gears into the Warrior stuff, if you guys don't know already, HCB is a big advocate for International Rugby League. I'm in love with it. So the more we see, the more better it is for the game. Now, in saying that, we get on the way. So the random match here for today. Random match is 2004 and the 15th of August, Energy Australia Stadium, Newcastle, round 23 against the Newcastle Knights. Unfortunately for the Warriors, we lost that game 36 points to 20. Try scorers were Tupi, Clinton Tupi, Francis Melli, as well as Villasanti. Goals were to Hohaya, who got 2 goals. Do you remember this game?
Not specifically, but I remember it was around about the time where I'd been a Warriors fan since about the year 2000 or something like that. I haven't always been a Warriors fan, but I grew up on the North Shore of Sydney, but also my dad lived out in Western Sydney, so I fluctuated between going for the Magpies and the North Sydney Bears, going to home games each weekend. Unfortunately, both of those teams either merged or both of them merged. In the case of the Bears, they're just not around anymore besides New South Wales Cup. And in the case of the Magpies, I just didn't really like the Tigers. So always following International Rugby League, I jumped to the Warriors, the only international team in the NRL. But that specific game, I can imagine Andrew Johns would have been somewhat, not quite in his prime, but I can imagine he owned it. And the combination between Francis Melli and Clinton Thorpe is probably the best centre wing combination we've ever had in our history. So I can only imagine that game, although you can see we didn't quite get the biggies that day. Do you remember it though?
I remember a little bit of it. I was a young kid in Glenfield Intermediate at the time. I loved watching Manu Watube and stuff growing up. Obviously, loved watching the Wires at that time as well. I remember that game sort of. I do remember 2004 wasn't probably the best year as well. Being a Warriors fan, I don't have too many memories that year as well. But to say that, it was just one of those games for me. I remember a little bit. I remember the likes of Melli, Tupi, Hohaya, and Villasanti as well. He was actually a player I actually really like watching. And then I have a question here for you as well. How did you start following the Warriors, Keith? High five to all the Australian Warriors fans.
Yeah, it's I actually went off the game a little bit after the Bears and the Magpies folded. And then I started watching sort of that Ali Lauatiti, Stacey Jones, Jerry Siu era, obviously Richard Villasanti in there. And they are the team, and maybe the big reason why I still follow rugby league. I'm a massive league, as you can tell, but going to school in Sydney's North Shore, there is a lot of rugby union here. There used to be more so than there is now. Rugby union is really struggling here, of course. But that was a team where I didn't want to watch anyone else. Everyone else bored me. I just love watching the Warriors. And the other reason is I am just a massive advocate for the international game. And I think it's underinvested. I think we've got a product that's one of, if not the best sports in the world. And how do we just keep it confined here on the East Coast? And the Warriors were a first step to truly growing the game outside of New South Wales and Queensland. So I'm, of course, going to support that. I think that it's time to add another team in New Zealand personally, but not that I've jumped ship to them. I think I've gone through too much with the Warriors.
That is an interesting topic that I'm definitely keen to sort of bring up in the video, and I might even have you on as well to discuss this. I think it's a really big subject to really talk about. In saying that, we'll get straight into it. So the New Zealand Warriors, SG, and New South Wales teams, right? So we'll go to the first result here, the SG Ball. Unfortunately, the Warriors SG team, they lost 10 points to 42 against the Magpies. Did you have a chance to watch the game, Keith?
No, I didn't get a chance to watch this one. I watched whatever I could for the first 4 or 5 rounds, but it's not a surprise that in our first year, with the travel and everything that goes with being a Warriors player, especially at that age, that we're letting some of these games slip in terms of the score lines. I think Adam Blair's doing a fantastic job. And I think that from a macro standpoint, I'm just really happy that these kids hopefully are starting to learn, the effects that travel and diet and nutrition and professionalism can have. Hopefully experiences like this can be a learning curve. And as they graduate to the Jersey Flag under 21s next year, although you see, is it Sifakola? He's already graduated possibly to the first grade squad almost from the SG Ball at the start of the year. But yes, look, it's not surprised to see that they lost to a team in Rugby League Heartland. If the Magpies, that Macarthur area is getting stronger and stronger for Rugby League. But my favourite players, the favourite kids to watch so far are Patrick Moi and Fuka Fuka in number 9, although my understanding is Fuka Fuka has been missing for a couple of weeks. But I think all in all, it's a solid first season. We started with a bang, but it's getting tough now. Did you get a chance to watch it, though?
No, I didn't. I really haven't been across the SG Ball, unfortunately. I mean, I got a chance to watch I believe it was their first 2 games. And I really like what I saw, but I just haven't had the chance to watch, I suppose, the remaining games. In saying that, though, it's still a tough loss. But I hear what you're saying, though. This is obviously just a platform for the first year, something that they can hopefully progress and climb towards. Now, the second was the New South Wales Cup team. And unfortunately, for us, again, the Magpies, we'll be magpied here, beat us 22 points to 10. I didn't get across to watch the game. Did you get a chance to watch this game?
I don't think anyone did, unless there was a magic stream that I wasn't aware of. I keep looking for streams for these games, and unless it's the Foxtel game that are around here, you just don't get a chance to see them. So maybe I missed the stream or something, but when I searched for it, I was ready for a huge Sunday. I had the whole day on the couch. It was fantastic. It was my first day to myself in about 6 days. I'm just not sure whether it was streamed, but as I said, a strong region like the Macarthur region, like the junior system's so strong there. You see up to 6 divisions. They really rival that Penrith without realising the sort of capacity of what they could achieve in first grade, as is evident with the West Tigers' failures. But yeah, look, it's not the worst loss in the world. We're still sort of top 4 we should be. Last time I checked, I'm just still riding that win against the Bulldogs and turn a blind eye to these losses against other teams, really.
That's my number one coping mechanism with the Waz. That's the way we do it. All right. So now we're going to get straight into this one here. The review, right? Sharks 30 points to 32. I'll follow you, but off the top of your head, Keith, what were your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, it was cliche as a roller coaster. It's one of those experiences that bonds every Warriors fans together. I know that you and I were chatting in a group setting as well, and you were riding every play, and just that sort of PTSD to having to flick the channel every time the opposition had the ball, or the temptation to flick the channel every time the opposition had the ball, because you have zero trust that will hold them out every single set. And going from that to the second half, or even after I think Cronulla only scored 6 points or 4 points after the 28th minute or something like that. So really, we're going after the 30th minute of the game. We just dominated. It's not that our defense improved that much. There were still issues on the edges, which are caused by, compressing further in, sort of in that back row, or that whoever's standing there on the half. So the Sean Johnson's defense can't be questioned lately. It's absolutely amazing. But it's wins like this that, if the bandwagon wasn't there last week, it's there this week, mate. It's and I say the more the merrier. And it's probably going to fuel me for the next couple of years. Whenever we're 20 points behind, I'm going to be like, well, no, we've done it before. I'm not going to change the channel. I still hold hope. And that's not the most rational approach, but sport and following sport like we do, like everyone that's probably listening right now, we're not about the rational side of things. We will ride our emotions for things that our wives might seem as inconsequential, because we're not the team. Why do you refer to your team as we? Mate, we are we, because we have followed the ups and downs of this club since its inception, basically. And there's been a lot of downs. So it's moments like this that just have me riding a high for months. You fuel off this for months. I loved it. How are you feeling after the win? I watched your live stream. Pretty amicable there. Pretty animated, I should say.
Yes, I had the chance to. I have Ash Thomas as well, who's a great YouTuber in his own right as well. We both, I suppose, reacted post game or during the game, the end of it, and post game as well. And look, I won't lie, I got pretty animated too on Twitter. I was basically saying that the Sharks were going to win the game, and that was it, right? I threw in the towel, right? It is what it is. As you sort of touched on as well, there, Keith. We get emotional, heart on our sleeves kind of stuff, right? It is what it is. In saying that, though, I felt like a real sense of belief, like a real sense of hope. Like, it's strong words to use for guys who are just playing on the field there. But seriously, like you said, that, and I suppose it goes off the bandwagon video I also posted about earlier as well this morning. There's just some things you can't describe. It's just a feeling you have. And like you said, it's something that you can ride with. And I felt great. I won't lie, though. In the game, particularly the first half, I was still worried. And I suppose we'll touch on it as well, just defense, I guess, overall. Obviously, 30 points to 32. I'm sure that's something you'll touch on as well. However, in saying that, like you said, it's one of those wins where everything that was bad, I override it. Basically, because we came back from 20-0 down, pretty much, and
we're like a gambler that has lost all his money and only realizes the wins. Only tells people about the wins.
Yeah.
How much did you put into the machine, though? It doesn't matter how much emotional energy I put into the Warriors. We got it in the second half. It doesn't matter.
That's it. Exactly right. And as Warriors fans, we all, I suppose, all face the emotional, relationship with the Warriors. We all have been through it. It is what it is, but I'm just absolutely elated. Now, you touched on Sean Johnson, and I've got here 5 key players that we can discuss. I've got him here. What were your thoughts on his game? Just give me your thoughts on Sean Johnson overall.
Yeah, I actually just prior to hooking this show up, I actually went back and listened to some of Andrew Webster's, not just the press conference, but his interview with SENZ, who are a great network, with Staffy on Monday. I'll just read a couple of paragraphs here, one on Sean Johnson, one generally on the game, that I think are very relevant to discussing this game. So he said, "I'm super proud. The boys' attitude and never giving up is something different. It's crazy how good it is. We just keep making it hard, but we must love to do it for some reason. Looking forward to an 80-minute performance, but this is one of the best wins that I've ever been part of. I just feel like we left the sheds with a bit of belief. We spoke about this and we need to fix it in regards to the defense. It's now moving on to halftime. It was so obvious defensively what we had to fix, and what we've been so good at for so long just wasn't there. It wasn't a lack of resilience today in the first half that conceded those tries. It was all about coordination, and what we're actually trying to do defensively wasn't there. We just weren't giving ourselves a chance to get in the fight. We spoke about details and what we had to fix. We're really calm about it. And at the right end, we spoke about whether or not we believe. Every time we've gone down there, we've scored. Every time we hold on to the ball, we build pressure. Every time we defend a set, we look good. If we do that, we're honestly a big chance here. That was as Churchillian as my speech got. In regards to SJ's performance, just lastly here, Webster went on to say, Sean's become this unbelievable leader. He's always been a fantastic player. His leadership in the last couple of weeks around what he wants for the team and the way that he leads with his actions around the tough stuff. No one was running the shapes at Sean today because they knew that he could hold his gloves up. The way that he got us around, the way that he stuck to the plan, he didn't go away from the plan when we were behind. He didn't try and throw it around. He actually just said, this is what we decided the plan was, and he stuck to it, and we got the result from it. He was very calm under pressure. So I don't think I can articulate Sean Johnson's performance better than Andrew Webster. But what I will say is that you can't beat that connection that someone like Sean Johnson has to his local community, the club that he dreamt of playing for. And you could just see, have you seen a more passionate performance from a Warrior in a long, long time? And Sean Johnson, probably the most passionate performance as a Warrior from anyone, certainly over the last 5 years for me. And I think from a bigger picture point of view, we could probably use that performance from Sean Johnson and what it clearly meant to him as a case study of just how important it is that we stick to our guns and become a development player, because history shows Aussies don't stick around because they don't truly have that emotional connection to the club like someone like Chance, Nickel-Klokstad, Sean Johnson, etc. have to our club. So I loved everything about SJ's performance apart from not finding touch. I was ready to throw the TV out the window at that stage. But yeah, it was just the best performance, most complete performance from any Warriors half that I've seen in 5 years.
Yeah, well said. I don't think I can add too much to that. All I'll just say was that it was just so beautiful to watch him play like that. He was stunning. He was brilliant. And you're right, that the passion that exudes from him, that just erupts from him, is so visible. And you can see it on his face as well. And a happy Sean Johnson is a good Sean Johnson in the fact that it can also obviously it's contagious, you know, that the team also pick it up as well. And it's so good. All right, next player, Jazz Tevanga. What were your thoughts on good old Jazz Tevanga?
Yeah, it's funny because I just said SJ's performance is the most passionate performance from a Warrior that I've seen in 5 years. But I tell you what, on balance, if you were to weigh up the sort of passion meter of every Warrior, every game, I'm sure that Jazz would come out on top over the course of, you know, a number of years now. I loved everything about him. I loved that. The fact that Jazz's performance typifies exactly what I was just saying in reference to SJ, and the fact that you can't beat that sort of heart that a local junior will show for the community that they're representing. And Jazz did exactly, you know, that kind of led from the front with that example in the same way that SJ did as well. I think that the difference this time round was Jazz was a little bit smarter about the way he went about things. And I think that's probably got a lot to do with Andrew Webster's coaching as well. Like, we all love Jazz because he's our version of Josh Reynolds, or what Josh Reynolds is to the Bulldogs. And I think that if you look at our return home to Mount Smart last year, you saw that Jazz got so pumped for it that he knocked himself out within a minute. That's how much the Warriors mean to him. But we can't have Jazz getting sent off, knocking himself out. It needs to be smart, controlled aggression and passion. And I think that Jazz is probably one of the smartest performers while showing absolute grit for, you know, close to 80 minutes that I've seen from Jazz. So, yeah, I can't fault his performance. He's deserved of a spot in the side next week, even if we had a full strength side.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think Jazz, and I've said it a few times already. He's that player that I suppose we've all seen grow, right? We've known him to be the first guy to throw the first punch or the first guy to get sent off, right? The first guy to start an argy-bargy, but we've seen him more disciplined, collected, cool, calm, collected Jazz Tabanga. And I think that really plays into his hand a lot more because of the passion, right? So ironically, so I think yeah, exactly. I completely agree with you. And I thought in the game he did a lot of hard, tough runs, particularly in there. I thought when all the boys were tired, he was, the legs were still pumping. He was ready to go. And again, 41 tackles, 41 tackles, 0 errors. You can't really complain there.
Yeah, and it's important that he sticks around because for a while there, we were getting to, it was just Bunty and Jazz that were the true Warriors club DNA. And we saw that Peter O'Sullivan, he had the right ingredients for an Australian club, but I don't think he really tailored his recruitment. I'm not questioning any of the kids or Australian purchases that he brought in, but I don't think he had the fact that there's such a nuance with being the New Zealand Warriors in mind, and that was probably empirical when that many people left us at the end. Your Matt Lodges, your Reece Walshes, your Ewan Aitkins, etc. So people like Jazz and even Bunty, who I have a real question. I think we almost need to talk about Bunty. I think we're at that stage. Is he top 17 material? I love Bunty, but so that hurts me to say. But players like SJ, Jazz, and Bunty, for a while they're the only three, and SJ was gone. SJ wasn't with us, so we had a very slim amount of Warrior DNA in the club. So I love that Jazz is there, and I hope that he shows everyone around him what the Warriors DNA means to him, and it rubs off.
Yeah, no, well said. As for that Bunty convo, I'm not ready to have it yet. Admittedly, I'm not ready, but I see what you mean.
Another week.
Yeah.
We need to talk about Bunty. I think we should be the episode title for that. Hopefully not, though.
No way. Bunty's the man. All right. Josh Curran, King Curran, what are your thoughts on his 18 minutes of play that obviously, I'm not going to say he won us the game, but he had 2 pivotal moments that helped us win the game. What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I think we share a bit of a man crush on Joshy Curran, and it's very hard to fathom what is going on here. You listen to what Webster said a couple of weeks ago that he's been dropped because he has 2 or 3 things that he knows he needs to work on, and he took that on the chin and said, "Oh yeah, no, I need to work on those. I'll go back to New South Wales and work on them." And we do have supreme depth in the second row position, thinking that, Tohu and, Mitch Barnett and Niokora out this week. But is he worse than Bailey? Bailey, I don't mind Bailey Sirenen, but in my mind, Josh Curran's a cut above Bailey Sirenen. So what is Josh Curran doing wrong here that he's not starting? Or, if he's not starting, then is coming on for the last 18 minutes of the game. Are we missing something here? Have you got a theory behind this?
I don't actually, apart from the fact that I think Webster is he's got a few checklists, I suppose, there for Curran to tick. And I'm hoping that recent performances have shown that he is ticking the boxes. I see him as a starter. Absolutely, he's a starter. I would even say he should be locked, in my opinion. But anyway, in saying that, he proved again, even with 80 minutes, just what he did there. As you can see, the stats there, right? 1 try, 20 kick meters. That 20 kick meters virtually helped us win the game, right? Because that's the kick that obviously scooted forward, and then obviously the ref penalized more than for the shove in the back. And look, yeah, I thought he was sensational, in my own opinion. Before we move into the Knights and Warriors, any notable mentions of any players I may have missed?
Chance again. I heard one of the guys from the Mad Monday podcast. He said that basically what you and I already knew, and I'm sure your listeners as well. Chance is just what we needed. Okay, we didn't need Reece Walsh, and we've stumbled upwards with that sort of transfer of Reece Walsh out and CNK in. And the line that one of them used, I think, just nailed it for me. Reece Walsh makes a good team better, but Chance Nickel-Klokstad makes a bad team better. And I think that sort of nails exactly what we need. And Jazz obviously said in the preseason, Reece could score a try, but Chance can save a try. And until we really get those defensive structures as second nature to us, Chansey is exactly what we need. Even if, like, this is a big call, massive call. But look, if RTS came back next week, I probably wouldn't move Chance. There's nothing more that Chance can do. And his defense and heart and commitment is it's not just all passion and no smarts. He's got the talent. I don't know what happened at Canberra that he wasn't being picked in favor of Xavier Savage. So CNK, not just for this game, but all year, needs a special mention. He's done everything right. He's one of my favorite players right now. He's just the best.
Just on that comment as well, guys, can you type in the comment, who would you rather? Would you have Charles Nickel-Klokstad or RTS? I just thought I'd just bring it up. I've never done that before, but I may as well see that. I see your point, though, to be fair. I'm not going to disagree. I get it. All right, we have a big game ahead of us over in Newcastle. Obviously, with momentum now, this is now possibly knocking on the door of win number 3. I say possibly because I still need a trade caution here, right? In saying that, I will get the team list out for us to see right now. And again, apologies. It will block our faces, but in saying that, it is what it is for now. Here is the team list here in front of you. I'm just going to get rid of this is the Warriors anyway, and I'll go to the Knights. So what are your initial thoughts on this team here?
Yeah, no real surprises. I think we're all wondering how DWZ makes his way back into the side. I think on balance right now, DWZ is probably a better player than Ed Cossey. I'll tell you what, Ed had some moments at the start of Sunday's game, which had me thinking back to Anzac Day Melbourne, but his resilience is a lot more resilience these days. So I love that Egan's in there. He's crucial for us. I think in terms of players that we will notice massively if they went in the side, you got some real obvious ones there that are in there this week. So if SJ was out, they would notice that big time. If Adam was out as the only real big bopper that we've got, you would really notice that. And we'd really notice the difference in service that Wade Egan provides when he wasn't there last week. And Tohu back is a massive in. So look, good to see Freddie Lussick and Tantul Piki and Dimitri Sivakula and Vokman also in the reserves. It shows that they're close as well. But I do worry about Bunty. We won't have that discussion, but what I will say is he had -2 post-contact meters last week. Okay, 2 runs. I understand that he was on the field for only, I think it was 13 or 17 minutes when, Sharks had almost all of the ball. But I think that Bunty has a lot to prove, and I'll be looking to see how many minutes he plays this week, or whether, it's time to promote someone like Dimitri Sivakula to get a bigger body in there, or someone that can make some post-contact meters. What do you reckon? It's a pretty balanced team. Your thoughts?
Yeah, look, overall, I suppose there's no surprises, right? If you can get Tohu in, you get him in, right? If you can get Tamari Mata in, you get him in. And obviously that's what the Warriors have done. Now, granted, I'm surprised Curran is playing on the bench again, but in saying that, he'll probably get more minutes this time round. Look, I like what I see between Jazz, Tavanga, obviously coming off the bench, Dylan Walker. I just want to quickly make a point as well. That Dylan Walker and Tavanga, I never knew that these two here in particular coming off the bench would actually be such a good chemistry thingy for the team. I'm lost for words, but I didn't actually realize that when they come off the bench, it's just what can you explain to me the Dylan Walker magic and the Jazz Tavanga? Like, why is it that they just somehow gel and they just it baffles me. Like, honestly, I'll say this one more time too. Andrew Webster is a maniac, right?
He's a genius.
He is. Yeah, can he? Yeah. What are your thoughts on that? The Dylan Walker Tavanga thing. It's beyond.
Yeah, it reminds me of the Hair Bears from Penrith 2003. The Pulitur and Nullarbor. Was it Nullarbor? No. Yeah, Frank Pulitur and Tony Pulitur was the brother. Joe Nullarbor, I think I'm thinking of. But I love how they feed off each other. They bounce off each other. Ultimately, I think we're probably still a big bopper short. But we won't get into that too deep. But I love everything about these two. And you can see Andrew Webster said yesterday that Ronald Volkman wasn't necessarily hooked to the bench, although he did have some pretty poor defensive reads in that first half. But the reason he had to put Ronald Volkman back to the bench, and this is one of our halves, mind you, is because Dylan Walker is so important to the side that we need him out there when the game's on the line. So Dylan Walker came on after about 20 minutes and played front row, obviously the most tiresome position to play on the field. And he was just gassed. So in order to keep him out there, this is how important Dylan Walker is to our side. He actually moved Volkman to the bench and moved Walker to 5/8, just to give him some time to breathe and keep him out there when the game was on the line. So that in itself, that action shows just how important Dylan Walker is to this side. And Jazz is just, all heart. I love Jazz. Actually, just quickly, what Andrew Webster said about the fact that we still have one spot available in the squad, I think it was today or yesterday, he said, we are in the market. It's a case for us that we've got to get the right person. So we're not just going to fill a spot for the sake of it. We've got to be careful. We can't make poor decisions just because we want to get someone. Then we get them and they're the wrong person. So we're just trying to be really smart with these inclusions. If the right person comes along, then we'll jump at it. And if the right person doesn't come along, then that's fine. You've got to understand that we're happy with the roster. We're happy with how it is and who's currently here. But there is space. There's one position available and we can fill it. If that position is the right person that comes along, will improve what we're already happy about. So that just goes to show we've got depth. We don't need to panic. Although there is a rumor that we did approach Isaiah Papali'i and say, would you consider quitting the Tigers and coming to the Warriors? And he's apparently said, no, I'm committed to my contract with the Tigers. But that's an interesting development that is rumored to have come about today. Yeah, but anyway, coming back to your original question, I love both of them. I love what they bring off the bench. It's amazing.
Yeah, look, just quickly on Ice as well. Look, I liked him what he produced, but I think we'll moved on from him. I'm not saying he's a bad player, but yeah, he's over at the Tigers. They're not doing too well at the moment. Anyway, in saying that, we move on. So now we've got this Knights squad. And over here, just quickly again, before I take it off screen, here is the Knights lineup. Obviously, just give me a summation of their squad, and then I'll follow suit, and then we'll talk about the preview prediction.
Yeah, there's a few players that scare me a little bit. I've always been a big fan of Jackson Hastings. I understand that if you move so many clubs and the common theme is that you rub people up the wrong way, then you become the common denominator. But I'm a big fan of the English Super League, and when he left Manly after the DCE incident, he signed with Salford, who were a club at the time in they still are obviously in Greater Manchester, but they were doing the 2,000 people per crowd around that time. And as you know, the Super League has promotion and relegation. So they went around the dressing room at the start of the year and they said, what does a good year look like for us? And everyone went around. And eventually, everyone was saying, don't get relegated. Yeah, don't get relegated. That's a successful year. And they got to Jackson Hastings. He says, I don't know what you guys are talking about. We're here to win a premiership. So a good year is a premiership. And he took Salford, if you know the Super League, you know how terrible Salford were back then. He took Salford to the grand final. They lost the grand final, and Joey Lussick deserves a bit of a mention in that as well. But the fact is, Jackson Hastings can have a huge influence on a team. And it's actually proving to be almost a blessing in disguise that Pong is spending some time out, because Jackson Hastings getting to spend some quality time, really owning this team in the halves. So Tyson Gamble, he's out this week, and Phoenix Crossland comes in. But we all know that Jackson Hastings is running that team in that regard. The only other thing that I had to say about this was just how important the back five are to Newcastle. Now, I understand it was a 90-minute game last week, so that obviously the stats are going to be pretty high. But the back five made 103 runs for them last week, 103 amongst the back five, which is pretty incredible. For an 80-minute performance from the Warriors, keeping in mind that Newcastle had 105 back five. We made 64. So that's approaching double the runs of the Warriors back five. As I said, I understand that in a 90-minute game, the backs are going to do more work because, the forwards are really tired. And I think the fact that it was a 90-minute game will play into it as well. For a fairer comparison, how many did Manly make? Their back five made 84 runs that time. But 4 tries to Dominic Young, 1 try to Greg Marzhew, 2 of the best attacking wingers in the game. I think this game is probably going to be decided oddly. This is going to sound really strange, but oddly in the outside backs.
Yeah, well, I guess in saying that we sort of jumped to the preview then. Just quickly as well, my thoughts on the night squad. I think they've got a team that they. I mean, obviously, I still have my thoughts on the Knights, but we still should treat them with respect. I mean, you're right. They had a 90-minute slugfest with Manly, and nobody came out on top there. But I suppose with the Knights, they can take a lot of confidence out there because I think a lot of people had Manly running over them, and it was not the case. Like you said, they've got Hastings there right in command. And another thing as well is Dominic Young. I think he's such a star player. He's one of my favorite players to watch. End of story. Very unfortunate the Knights won't be using him next year. But anyway, I think Marzhew as well. I think his opposite is going to be Gossi. And there is a bit of a height difference between the two. So if I am Gossi, I'm looking to use that to my advantage, high balls, all that stuff from Sean Johnson. Obviously, it's going to be Jackson Hastings against Sean Johnson. Again, the battle of the halves is what I'm looking at as well. You sort of touched on the forwards there as well, the Knights. It's going to be a big clash, in my own opinion. I think you said it'll be back-based. I reckon it might be as well to a degree. I still think the forwards will still have a little bit of a say here. However, in saying that, I really think, hopefully, fingers crossed if Harris plays, he'll have a bit of an influence in the game. I do see the Warriors forwards, though, rolling forward, hopefully. That's just the way I sort of see it, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's good. It's good that you mentioned the height difference between Ed Gossi and Greg Marzhew because we have the complete flip side of the coin on the other wings. We've got Dominic Young, who's approaching 6'6", up against Marcelo Montoya. So Montoya is actually said to be 1.89 centimeters. When I looked it up, Dom Young is 2 meters, but I don't know how accurate that is. Dom Young is just head and shoulders above Marcelo Montoya. So, yeah, I mean, Jackson Hastings is the key to any team that he's in my opinion. If we can control Jackson Hastings, then the ball can't really go out there smoothly, although we struggle to shut down Nico Hines. So we need to work on our defensive structure, just our placings as well. So I think that's got to be almost all 5 days worth of work for the Warriors this week if we're going to really compete well with Newcastle and get on top of them. We need to fix those defensive lapses. I said to you in a message before the Sharks game, I said that Willie Mason came out during the week on his podcast, and he said that the Bulldogs got back to do their review game on the Monday after playing the Warriors, and they came up with so many things that they failed to exploit. Now, he didn't say where it was, but he alluded to the fact that it was in the outside backs. And then I was sort of watching the outside backs closely, and the first 20 minutes just really highlighted what Willie Mason was alluding to, that Geraldo and the Bulldogs saw in their review session on the Monday and were so furious with themselves that they failed to exploit. So Adam O'Brien will be watching exactly what Bulldogs failed to exploit and the Sharks managed to exploit. So if we don't manage to get our defensive placings correct, and if we keep compressing around about down the tram lines, then there's just going to be an overlap over an overlap. It's not that Adam O'Brien's the greatest coach in the world. It's just the Sharks have just shown him how to beat the Warriors, basically. So if we don't fix that, then we're going to see a repeat. Even though it's Newcastle, probably aren't the quality of the Sharks, we're going to see that happen again. So for 5 days, they need to work on their defensive placing. They need to do sort of game simulation training, and if we can fix that, we should really beat this Newcastle side by at least sort of 10 points or something like that. If we can't fix that, we're gonna have Dominic Young, Bradman Best, Dane Gagai, and Greg Marzhew just having a field day out there.
Yeah, no, I agree, and obviously add Lachlan Miller into that mix as well. He's been shaping up nicely.
Yeah, good point.
I will say as well, just quickly, you're right, and I suppose I need to bring this to the forefront. as much as I like the Warriors and the way we're playing, I'm still worried about our defensive work on the edges. That's right. Wailia, right? He got torn apart respectively against Ramian. Ramian is a class stellar player, and he showed him how to play respectfully. Gossi as well, right? As much as we love these players scoring tries, I think we should also look at the defensive work as well, and just note it, point it up there. Like you said, with the Bulldogs, they basically understood the assignment a little too late. The Sharks were onto it. The Knights definitely will be, right? So if we can clean it up, then for me, I see us winning. In all honesty, that brings us to the last part here, the prediction. Give me your thoughts on this game. Who wins and why? But yeah, who wins?
I think the Warriors, and I think that just because of the faith that we're winning in a way that is not, it's not fluky, it's not some mercurial sort of lucky bounce or anything like that. We're winning through our resilience, and when we've made all these poor defensive reads, Webster seems to have the answer. It's not through lack of effort, he says. It's through we're not standing and we're not parting, our positions as wide as what we could or as tight as what we could. So it sounds like the answers are there, and they're in theory answers that can be implemented right away. So if we basically just Webster needs to train us like it needs to train under 10s sometimes. He just needs to tell us where to stand, how many meters apart, what to do when the decoy runner comes through. And sure, occasionally there'll be tries let through. But on balance, if we stick to the structures that he's learned you got to realize this is a guy who had to captain and coach the Connecticut Wildcats. Now, I know you're into the USA Rugby League as well, most of the California Rugby League, but I was into the Connecticut Wildcats a long time ago, around about the time he was captain coach. So one of the reasons he's so suited towards the Warriors is that there's a lot of players who are still learning how to play rugby league, which sounds strange because they're in the NRL. But he knows how to dumb it down and just simplify things, and that's exactly what a team like the Warriors needs. So if we keep our defensive positions the way that Webster tells them to keep their defensive positions, which isn't easy because you got a lot of decoys, you got a lot of different things thrown at you, games on the line, etc. We should be able to hold Newcastle out, and they don't seem to be the most resilient team yet. They're heading in the right direction. So I think we can frustrate them, but I don't want to see us just panic because we've spent the last 5 rounds being scored upon first. If it's 0-0 after 30 minutes, that's a victory for us because we will then grind it away and we will strangle them until it becomes sort of 30 or something like that. But if we panic and just think, we need to score first, this is getting embarrassing, this is 6th week now, that's when I'll start to be worried. So it all comes down to defensive placings from the tram lines, so that each third, the left third of the field and the right third of the field. So I think we'll get the win here, but I want to put almost all the onus on defense.
Yep, I agree. I see the Warriors winning 6 points, between 6 points and 12 points, thereabouts. And you're right. I agree. So Warriors to win. Hard-hitting questions. I've got here a few questions here for you. Feel free to answer them or not. All right. Are we a genuine top 4 team? I know it's early, but give me your thoughts.
Oh, we could be. The word sort of genuine is what's throwing me a little bit. I think we're 4 through 8. It's a long season. We've got 27 rounds this year, which is the longest that I can remember. Maybe they had that in Super League. I'm not sure. We already have 4 wins on the board, so that's 8 points. We've got 3 buys this year, so you can add another 6 points in there. There's obviously the extra team this year. So accounting for that, I think 30 points will see us scrape into the 8. So if you add the 3 points the 6 points from the 3 buys on top of the 8 points that we're already on, you get to 14 points. So then you're obviously 16 points short, which is another 8 wins. I certainly think that we can bag those 8 wins, but to be top 4, I think it's probably a year too early. I hate to be that guy, but I can definitely see us making the 8. We really should be making the 8, which is if you told me that at the start of the year, I'd be stoked with that. and I still will be, quite frankly.
All right. No. Okay. Cool. And probably the last one as well. Is this the best version of Shaun Johnson we're seeing?
In terms of desire and consistency and maturity, yes, it is. I hope it's not his last year. I love everything about Shaun Johnson. I think that he's done enough for our club over the years to be able to dictate his terms on when he wants to go out. So if he wants to go around another year, by all means, we'd be crazy not to sign him. Although Blake Ashford came out and he was commentating on the game in New Zealand on one of the radio shows, and he said that in my last year, I just threw the kitchen sink at it because I didn't really worry about getting injured. I knew it was my last year. I knew I didn't have to go around for another preseason training. Are we seeing this from Shaun Johnson? I hope not. I hope that he's just sort of matured as a father, as a family man, cherishing what he didn't have for the past couple of years, that is being at home in New Zealand. On balance, I'd say yes, it is the best version of Shaun Johnson. But highlights reel, geez, there's no one like that could light up the highlights reel around 2011 like Shaun Johnson and Kevin Locke. So that'll hold a place in my heart for a long time. But it's like Benji is with Souths, basically, but slightly better in my mind.
Yeah, the 2011, right? 2011, that was my first year out of high school. I remember that year. I remember it fondly, but obviously it was very bad. And hey, in saying that though, obviously, it is what it is, and hopefully the Warriors can, take us to the promised land. All right, so we're coming up to the final two segments. NRL tips. I'm going to rattle off the games and just give me your thoughts and who wins. All right, so I've got the Storm and Roosters.
In Melbourne?
Yep.
This is the Thursday night game. I'll go Storm.
I think for me, I think I'm leaning that way too, but I think I'm going to get Roosters for the upset, so Roosters for me. Bulldogs and Rabbitohs.
I think Rabbitohs will win this quite comfortably. I think that Cowboys game and the 5-day turnaround after the New Zealand game really start to test the Bulldogs temporarily. They might see a lull. I'd be surprised if they don't see a lull. So I'm going to go Souths comfortably with this one. But that doesn't mean the Bulldogs are a bad team. It's just that they play them at a time. It's just opportunistic for Souths.
Yeah. South's coming off a loss as well, right? Rabbitohs for me. Cowboys against the Dolphins.
Yeah, I'll go the Cows. I don't know what's happened this year. You can't just lose the talent and sort of game awareness that they had last year. But what I will say is that last year they had and as did the Sharks. The Sharks and the Cowboys had I think the best run of injuries of any team, certainly any team that made the top 8 anyway. So they were very, very fortunate with losing hardly any players almost all year. So now we're seeing players like Josh Drinkwater suspended, who is in a crucial position for them. But I can see them. I mean, you look at the halves disaster that the Dolphins are going through. In theory, Cowboys should really put 18 points ahead of the Dolphins for this one. I'll go the Cowboys with confidence, but if they don't spank them, then they still need to look in the mirror.
No, I agree. I think the Cowboys will destroy them, especially after that loss against the Doggies. They'll be and it's at home, right? Next game is Panthers against Manly.
Yeah, I love this game, actually. This is at Penrith.
Yep.
I don't know what happened to Manly last week. 90-minute game, it really takes it out of you. Jake Trbojevic played 90 minutes in the front row. That is unheard of. Almost due to that fact, and the Panthers had an amazing second half where they just walked through the Raiders. I'm going to go with the Panthers just due to the freshness as well.
Yeah, no. I was thinking about this game, and I was thinking maybe Manly can upset them, but no, I don't think so. Panthers for me. Broncos and Raiders.
Yeah, obviously I've got to go with the Broncos for this one. I love what Reece Walsh is doing, but I can't keep coming back to that quote that I heard. I just, when someone comes out with that turn of phrase or that analysis summed up in one or two sentences. Just like, yes, that is how you articulate what I was thinking when they said on the Mad Monday podcast, CNK makes a bad team better. Reece Walsh makes a good team better. And that is exactly what it is. Reece Walsh is still caught napping. No one notices it. Is still caught napping in defense quite a lot. Obviously, the Broncos substantially, maybe by 30 plus here. Although Ricky's Raiders will be sort of up for it, or should be knowing Ricky Stewart. But yeah, it's good to see the Broncos going well. I just think that the test for the Broncos comes in Origin time, although obviously we're not Origin time yet. So yeah, Broncos comfortably.
Yeah, for me, Broncos as well. Next game is Titans against the Dragons.
I've gone with the Titans for this one. I actually think that the Titans are close to getting it together. I don't know why it's taking so long. How many Australian schoolboys can one club obtain over the years and still not make it work? They haven't really made it work since Matt Rogers, Preston Campbell, Scott Bailey, and all those players were there 2007 through 2011. I'm going with the Titans. I think that they have a higher quality squad. I think that the Dragons are extremely reliant on Ben Hunt. Without Ben Hunt, you see basically, it sounds a bit harsh, almost a reserve grade team without Ben Hunt, if I'm being full about it. Whereas if you took a player out of the Titans, you still see probably an NRL team in there. And so I think the balance across the board leads me to go with the Titans. I think it's on the Gold Coast. Am I right?
Yep.
But yeah, the Gold Coast should really be getting their shit together. They should be challenging for the top 8. So I'm going to go with the Gold Coast.
Yeah, no, I've gone the Dragons this one here, particularly with AJ Brimson and Foreign out. I just think this game here is made for Ben Hunt to again show why he's quality and class. I really see the Dragons winning, in my opinion. All right, we've done the Warriors.
Nice one.
We've done the Knights and Warriors, so we're going to go to the last game, the Easter special, if you will. Tigers against the Eels.
I think we all know. I don't know the solution for the Tigers, and I don't want to put the boot in because it's just. Look, I won't say anything. I'll just go with the Eels.
Yeah, no, Eels to win. Look, the Tigers, all I'll say is how long can this circus continue for? How long can their fans just endure this? Because I don't see them getting better anytime soon, in my opinion.
Do you remember the last time they played a finals game? It was against us.
Yeah,
2011.
2011, eh?
Yeah. And Kristen Inu reached over to score the try after the Tigers dropped him. It was one of the final minutes of the game, and maybe they just haven't recovered from Kristen Inu's try or something. It's 10 years later, and they're still ruling about it. I don't know, but Tim Sheens isn't the answer. I'll tell you that. He wasn't the answer for Hull KO. He wasn't the answer as coaching director of Salford. Everyone that follows the Super League are like, why? He can't coach a Super League side these days. How can he coach an NRL side? So, look, I hope they get their shit together. But obviously, it's not going to be this weekend.
Yeah, look, I suppose just to quickly summate that as well, Tim Sheens, he's had his moment. He's had his time in the sun, the glory days, he experienced it all. He's done it all as a coach. He doesn't need to be around now. All right. Last segment. Who am I? This is where I get the individual here to basically guess who this player is from the Warriors. All right. Here we go. I was born on the 30th of the 5th, 1980 in Motu Otua, Apia, Samoa. I played 94 games for the Warriors between 2000 and 2003. Then I played 97 games for the Warrington Wolves. I was between 2004 and 2007. My positions were wing, second row, 5'8", and center. My try celebrations will never be forgotten. Who am I?
Oh, well, the try celebrations makes you think of Henry Fafili. Hang on, let me think about this. It's 2023. I'll be 43 now. So, okay, born in Apia, Samoa. So immediately the first few clues, I was like Jerry Siu, Arwen Guttenbeil, Motu Tony, Warrington for only 3 years, winger. Okay, 5'8", second row, Logan Swan, maybe Jerry Siu.
Is that your final answer? Are we going to lock it in?
Yeah, it is, but I'm terrible at this stuff. But yeah, Jerry C is here. Oh, hang on. He wouldn't have played 5'8". Thomas Lillawai. Surely it's not Thomas Lillawai. Hang on, let me think about this. Yep, Thomas Lillawai. Let's go with it.
Thomas Lillawai locking it in?
Yeah, why not?
All right, $1 million on the line.
Oh, it is Henry Farfili, the coconut. The coconut celebration. Oh, yes. Trust your gut, brother. Trust your gut. It's a lesson in life.
You said it first, I was like, yes, and then you thought about it too hard, and I was like, no, we're losing him.
Oh, I talk myself out of it, bro. Oh, shit. That's a good segment.
Bro, look, in saying that, maybe next time, right? Maybe next time.
Yeah.
Look, in saying that, before you go off, is there any last words you want to say? Again, promoting yourself, your Everything Rugby League. Where can we find you? All that stuff.
I think one thing that I want to promote is Warrior Nation. The work that they do in teeing up venues in Sydney and Brisbane when the Warriors are playing, not in Sydney or Brisbane, of course, or even when they are playing in Sydney, for example, which is where I live. I see Warrior Nation tee up, venues around the stadium that they're playing at. So someone needs to do that. Someone needs to book that. Someone needs to organize that. And that's done all off the passion of a few guys that just love the Warriors. So look, I haven't been to many of them, but I found out who Warrior Nation were. I just thought those guys are true fans. So I want to thank them for all the hard work that they do. And if anyone listening doesn't know who Warrior Nation are, it's an opportunity to join the Warriors community in Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane in Australia, or even outside of New Zealand and other areas. So I love the sense of community that being a Warriors fan brings to us, and Warrior Nation typifies that. So shout out to Warrior Nation. Love the work that they're doing.
Awesome, as yes, shout out to Warrior Nation. I did actually get a chance to see him last year in Magic Round, and I'm hoping to do the same again this year as HTB looks to be traveling over to Brizzy again. And say that though, Keith, Everything Rugby League, thank you so much for your time. Thank you again for your yarn. The pity you couldn't get the last question though. Henry Farfili, right? But in saying that,
so close.
You were there. You were there. You were there. You were there. But in saying that though, all jokes aside, thank you again for your time. Looking forward to this weekend. Obviously, guys, have a enjoyable Easter. Don't eat too much chocolate. And go the Warriors. Take it easy. See you guys next time. And hold the ball.